All right, let me share my screen and let's start updating some incomes. Share. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can see HMIS, the training website right now. So to update income, we're going to head straight into client point so we can find the client we want to update the income on. At the top, we'll find our client. In this case, I will try and find John Smith. And since I was a little vague on the search, it does give me a lot of different options to choose from. So let's go with this John right here, John, client ID 78. Now we're under John's profile. And when you're updating income, as long as your program handles entry exits, that is where you want to update the income. So that's what we'll do here. We're going to add an entry. And I am going to choose one of the Homeless Leadership Alliance's projects for us to update income on. Let's go ahead and just going to click search. In a lot of your cases, you probably just have a drop down for you to select a provider. So in my end, I do have to search for one. So here we just found a provider. I'll fill out the project type. In this case, the project type is HUD. And I'll leave the project start date to be today's date. And we'll click Save and Continue. The entry date a little bit so it's kind of centered on the screen here. And we'll scroll down and then we have our data elements here that pretty much everyone fills out when they're creating an entry. Once you scroll down just a little bit, you'll reach the total monthly income screen right here. So at this point, if you're looking to update income, there are about 3 fields that you're mostly touching. You want to update the total monthly income amount right here. So if this is supposed to go from 300 to 0 or 300 to 500, this is where you want to make that change. Then you have the income from any source drop down, and this is just asking for, are they receiving some kind of income? So if they are receiving something, then you would select yes. If not, you'd want to put no. And last but not least, we have our HUD verification, and this is where we want to make updates to the income inside this box so that when we click view gross income, like here, it should match whatever your total monthly income amount is. So in this case, let's go ahead and update this amount. Let's say this client went from 300 to 500. So I'll change this to say 500. Our income from any source still says yes, so that's good. We don't have to change or update this field. And we'll go straight into HUD verification. At this point, you'll want to click the pencil next to the source of income you're looking to update. In our case, we're trying to update their earned income. So that's the pencil we're going to click on. So click on the pencil. I'm going to move this screen down just a little bit here. But once you reach this screen, you don't want to update this amount right here. If you see a little bar next to pretty much any field in HMIS, this means that this information was put in, depending on the color. If it's green, it was put in relatively recently. If it's red, that means it was put in quite a bit ago. But if you see a bar, that means that someone else put in this information. So if you change this value, you're going to be changing another provider's information. You don't want to do that. So in this case, we see 300. You don't want to update this. You'll come down here at the very bottom where it says end date, and you'll put the end date to be 1 day before your entry date. So if you're backdating information and you don't remember what your entry date is, right up here at the top where it says monthly income for 8/3/2021, this date is always going to be your entry date. So you don't have to scroll all the way up to find it. It should be right here for you. So in our case, yesterday would be 8/2/2021. So that's what we'll put our end date as. This is a really important step, making sure that you're ending this correctly. One thing I want to point out with these start and end dates is that this is not really relating to, when the client started making this amount. These are dates of discovery. So today we realized the client's making 500. So as of yesterday in HMIS, they were still making this amount. We'll go ahead and click save here. All right. At this point, now we're able, you can see I'm actually able to click the little bubbles to fill them in. So that's what I'm going to click for earned income. We're going to select yes. And now you'll see that there is a fresh screen. There's no data, there's no information here from a previous provider. So we can go ahead and input our information. So the client we know is making 500 as their monthly amount. The income verified, we'll say this is yes. Let's say yes, I did verify the amount. And we'll fill in our annual income. And since this is information you're putting in, you're not putting an end date, you're just leaving the start date as it is. And then we'll click save. Okay, everything looks good. We can't click anything. Nothing is listed as incomplete. If I exit out of this income, you'll see HUD verification has the little check mark, which means that we have information on all sources of income. And if I click on view gross income at the bottom, you'll see now this is changed and our total monthly income matches our gross monthly income. All right, so once we're done updating our income, most other cases we update our other HUD verifications, but we'll come down to the very bottom of the screen and we will click save and exit. I scroll back up, we can see our entry here, and we updated our income inside this entry. In the case of, let's say the client was making a certain amount in HMIS, but once you're able to sit with them, you realize that, okay, they're not actually making any income. The process is very similar. It's just a little bit different. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'll go back into client point to find a different client. Let's see here. Here we have a different John Smith, different social and date of birth. So we'll go ahead and click this John Smith's name. All right, now we're on this person's profile. We'll do the same process. We'll add an entry. In this case. And I'll pick the same project as I did before. And the project type for this one is HUD. And then we'll click save and continue. This a little bit over. All right, and we'll scroll down because we want to look at income right now. So right here, our client is receiving 0 in the system. And so if we want to update this, then unlike the previous example where there was an amount here and our income from any source said yes, now if we're changing this to have an actual amount, so let's say, for example, 200, you do want to make sure that your income from any source does match the information you're putting in. So here you don't want to leave this as no, you'll have to change this to yes. And the process for HUD verification is still the same. We will click on HUD verification, and now everything should say no on the line, because that's what was previously stated. And now we're going to update this. Again, we'll click on the Earn Income pencil. And yes, there isn't a monthly amount, but you can still see bars. That means that someone else did put this information in. So you still don't want to put an income amount in here. You always want to just come down to the bottom, put an end date to be 1 day before your entry date. And if you don't remember, it's the date right up here, your monthly income 4. This will always be your entry date. So you'll pick 1 day before this one. So it's 8/2/2021. This case over here, we'll hit save. And if you notice, whenever we click save and our earned income goes over to the incomplete column, you'll see that HUD verification has a little red exclamation mark. It's just to kind of warn you and let you know that, hey, there's something that wasn't listed under the HUD verification. Something is missing and you want to make sure you go back in and verify. So from here, if we click yes right here, and we'll update our earned income information. As you see, this is a blank screen, no bars, and no other information is listed here. So we'll list our 200 monthly amount. And let's say that, yes, this was verified, and we'll list our annual income amount here. Now, if I click save, you'll notice that HUD verification changed into this little checkmark symbol, letting us know that all of these different sources of income were filled out. If I exit out of this, everything seems to look good. So we can scroll down to the very bottom of the screen and hit save and exit. Now, as you're scrolling up, especially if you're in the entry and you're updating the income, once you hit save and exit, you'll most likely see another HUD verification on the client summary page. If you don't see this change, for example, we just updated income to 200. So here it should say 200. Don't worry about that. It's just the next time you come into the client's profile, the information will be listed there. So if you're scrolling up and you see that, okay, this still says 0, this says no, even though I changed it to yes, it's just because we just changed the information, and so this hasn't had a chance to catch up just yet. And our entry is done in our case. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. Does anyone have any questions either about updating income, any particular tricky situations you found yourself in, and what I just showed didn't quite apply to what you were trying to do? Or even if it's not any income questions, if you have HMIS questions in general, please feel free to ask, and we can definitely clear some confusion for you. If anyone's trying to say anything, I just want to point out you're all muted. WebEx does mute you if you join the call. So if you want to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself or post it in the chat. Right, Corinnia asks, can you explain how to get the income total? Do you mean the gross monthly amount in the entry? So if you have multiple sources of income, you can still capture it the same way that I showed you earlier. So if I can again share my screen, share this again here. All right, so we're back inside an entry here to make some updates. So let's say you're wanting to capture unemployment insurance or something. So this might be given to you in a weekly or bi-weekly format. You would just want to convert that to a monthly format. So if, and you'll update that in HMIS. Since this is only monthly income, we don't really capture weekly in here. So if you do have a weekly amount, you just want to multiply it by the number of weeks and then capture that in HMIS. And you'll do that, let's say for example, here we listed the total monthly amount to be 200. Let's say they're earning, right now it says 200, but we can update the unemployment insurance as well. And we want to be consistent. So in this case, I'll put maybe 400. Okay. And we're going to add a unemployment insurance of another 200. So we'll click on HUD verification here. And we want to find our unemployment insurance. So this is our option. We'll click the pencil. And right here, again, is our entry date. So at the bottom for our end date, we'll put this to be 1 day before. Since you can see we have some bars here. So someone put this information in. We don't want to jeopardize their data. So we'll put our end date to be 1 day before. Okay. We'll click save. All right. And at the bottom, we'll change our unemployment insurance to say yes here. And we'll update this amount. We'll say maybe this is 200 for our monthly amount. Let's say yes, we do have the unemployment verification information. Annual income, we'll update this. And then we can click save. Right, so if I exit out of that, you'll see we have 200 in each category.
So, is it Ganel? I'm sorry.
No worries, it's Ganael.
Okay. This is Corina.
Mhm.
That wasn't really exactly what I was asking for. Before, I worked for another agency that did it. We did the weekly by four, 4 weeks in a month. That gave you a monthly total. Now this agency, it sort of seems like they're doing it a little bit differently. So they do the way they calculate it a little bit differently than what I'm used to. So that's why I just wanted to know exactly how are you guys coming, uh, does the system want our actual numbers? Like, is it the weekly times 4 or the weekly times 2? You know what I mean? Just how do you guys do it, or how is it supposed to be done? Just a clear cut calculation.
Right. So HMIS wants to capture the monthly. So if you have a weekly amount, it should just be, that amount times 4 or however many weeks. And you'll kind of do the same thing if it's a bi-weekly, you'll just want to translate that into a monthly amount and then capture that in HMIS.
Okay. Okay. So then with the unemployment, we're not we want to do, if they get paid twice a month, then we want to do that monthly rate, not by how much unemployment they're going to be receiving, like they have a cap. We're not trying to use any of that information. Correct?
Right, we're just using the monthly. Yeah. Just so if it's bi-monthly, you should have both of the unemployment amounts, add them together, and then that's what you're capturing in HMIS.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm, absolutely. Great question. Anyone have any other questions? Anything we can clarify for you? No, not everyone at once. Well, if we don't have any questions, or if you come up with something later on, some kind of situation you came across and you weren't quite sure how to handle it in HMIS, you can always reach out to us through our help desk. And I will put a link to our help desk in the chat for anyone who needs it. Paste this right here. All right, let me see if I can open HMIS again here. Want to bring up the non-cash benefits as well. Let's see, it is not sharing the right screen, I think. Here. Okay, I think we're all set here. So if we're looking to capture, so right up here, this is just earned income. So earned income, unemployment insurance. I want to open up the HUD verification so everyone can see the different options or what's counted as a monthly income. We'll see we have child support, pension, disability insurance, SSDI and SSI. All of these count under different sources of income here. But if, for example, you're looking to capture a different type of assistance, you could have maybe food stamps or TANF child care services. Those all fall under non-cash benefits down here at the bottom. So if you're looking to update any of this information, all HUD verifications are updated the same way. So here we have our, again, a familiar yes or no question, just are you receiving some kind of non-cash benefit from any of the different sources in here? And you want to make sure you're filling this drop down. It's kind of easy to miss just because of the color scheme, kind of a gray on white type of color scheme, but you want to make sure that you're capturing this information. So in our case, let's say this client is receiving maybe food stamps or something like that. We can update this drop down to say yes. Our non-cash benefits, again, will go into HUD verification. You'll see here we have our food stamps. So let's say this is what we want to modify and update. So right now it says they don't have, or they're not receiving any food stamps. So we'll click the pencil. And similar to before, we'll put our end date. We don't want to modify any of this information. Unlike income, you'll see that the end date isn't located at the bottom of the screen in this case. It's actually located at the top right underneath the start date. So we'll just pick 8/2/2021 as our end date on this one. And we will click save. Depending on if the provider that put in this information previously, if they answered all the fields, you wouldn't have this encouraged answer alert. But if some of the fields weren't answered, when you go to click save, you'll get a pop-up that says, would you like to answer these questions now? We can go ahead and click no. Okay. So again, once it's listed as incomplete, we have our exclamation mark on the right-hand side, this red exclamation mark, just to let us know that hey, you didn't fill out everything that you're supposed to. So right up here, you can see it's listed as incomplete, so we can change this to yes. Again, different from income, you'll see that when we click yes, we didn't get that pop-up that we're used to seeing here. So the way to update your food stamps information is instead of clicking save and exit, you're actually going to head on over to Save. That's what you want to click on. And you'll see now that we click Save, we still have the non-cash benefits screen open. And now we have a pencil that we can click on. So if we click the pencil, this will be our addition into the in food stamps. So this is where you can put our amount of non-cash benefits, and maybe they're receiving 100 food stamps, and then we can verify that information at the very bottom here, non-cash benefits. Let's say that yes, we did verify this. Okay, everything's kind of filled out, so we can hit save. If you're unsure, when you click the pencil, you're not 100% sure if that is your entry. In fact, you can always click the little bar on the left-hand side, and it will have your name, provider, just so you can verify that, okay, yes, this is the food stamps that I just added. So that's how you can verify that. And you can click save. All right, so you have your information in now, and we can exit. So income, if you click on yes, it will just automatically pop up with that little screen for you to update. But if you're looking to do non-cash benefits or health insurance, you don't want to click save and exit in that case. You want to hit save and then click the pencil on what you just updated. All right. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. Any questions on non-cash benefits or updating that? I know it's a little bit different from income, whereas income kind of just pops it open automatically for you, but the other ones don't.
So, Ganayal, the takeaway on the income is to always check to make sure that when you close out an old income, you want to use the day before the entry that you put in for today. So say $100 is in there for John Smith and he now makes 200. We would definitely go in and we would we would end that first entry prior to. But what if we don't see the pencil? What does that mean?
So
after
if you
we fix it?
Yeah, if you don't see the pencil, that means that the information wasn't captured. So there's no information in there at that point. So if you don't see the pencil, that means you want to select one of the bubbles, whether it's a yes or no, to fill out that information. You might come across some tricky situations in HMIS where uh, someone has multiple different incomes at once, and you might not know how to deal with that. Let me show you an example. Let me open HMIS for us here. Sharing. Let me open this up for us. All right, so we're back under our monthly income here. You'll see up here it says 400. If you look down here, you'll see that we have a couple different earned income amounts. And if I click on view gross income, you'll see that now it says 1,000, even though up here it says 400. So what you would want to do in this case, let's say you're looking to update this amount. Let's see here, you can see we have two different earned incomes, one of them for 500, one of them says 300. both of them, neither of them have an end date, and we still have our unemployment insurance. So we don't want to change this one. This is exactly where we need it to be. But our earned income really should say 600 maybe in this case, right? So we'd have our 200 for unemployment insurance, and we'd have 600 for our earned income. So our total up here should say 800 instead of 400. So we can update that. Okay. Yes, and then we'll come into HUD verification. And we'll still do kind of the same process of clicking the pencil. And you'll see we can see the 300 listed in here. And we want to put an end date of 1 day before our entry date. So our end date in this case should say 8/2/2021. And we don't want to change this amount. We just want to end it 1 day prior. And then we'll click save. And you'll see in this case that it didn't actually change to incomplete for us. If you run into that situation, it just means that there were multiple earned incomes that were open at the same time. So all you would want to do is repeat that same process. You'll click on the pencil, it'll open whatever earned incomes that are open, meaning they don't have an end date. And you'll come down here and you'll put an end date of 1 day prior again. And you'll keep doing this until all of the open earned incomes are closed. So here we'll click save. You'll see now it lets me choose one of these options. Now it says it's incomplete. So in this case, we can come in and update this to say yes. And now we can put our amount in. Okay, so if we scroll down, click exit, we click on our view gross income, our gross monthly income right here should say 800. Okay, if I look down, you can see our earned income right here, open on 8/3. We see our 2 closed earned incomes. And then we see our open unemployment insurance income right here. So if you come into any situation where you're trying to update the income and you closed it out and you did everything right, and it's still not letting you choose an option, just means you want to go in, you click that pencil again, end it 1 day prior. You might have to do it twice, might have to do it 3 times. It just depends on how many open earned incomes or open incomes in general were in the HUD verification section. All right, let me stop sharing my screen real quick and just ask if you have, I don't know if anyone has ever run into this situation before, but you might in HMIS if your view gross income amount is way off. It might, it should say 800, but instead it says 2,000. That's because there were a ton of open entries prior that would need to be closed out. All right, let me see if we have anything in chat. Keep in mind, this is being recorded for us, so if you need to review anything that we covered today, this webinar, this recording will be on our help desk. So it'll be available if you need to refresh afterwards, or you come across an odd situation, you want to see if this video covered it. It will be on our help desk for you to look at later on. any remaining questions? If not, I can stop the recording, and please always feel free to reach out to HMIS with any questions. Help desk is the best way to reach us since it sends an email to pretty much all of us. So if one person is busy in a meeting or something, at least another HMIS staff would be available to answer your questions. So make sure you use our help desk if you have any questions or concerns or want to share anything. We're always looking for feedback. Cindy, I think you're unmuted, but we couldn't hear anything you said at that point.
No, I just said thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You all have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.